We a sassy bunch.
Oh.
Okay, now we're online and streaming. So we are live with our first episode of 2022, and we will try and keep the crazy to a minimum, but I make no promises.
Also, how often do y'all do these brain drains? I didn't get to pay attention much to that.
Usually once a month. We started out weekly, and it was just a little bit too much, so then we decided to go once a month.
That would seem more balanced to me, yeah.
How long have you been in the server anyway?
This specific server, probably a couple to a few months.
Okay, yeah. So we started almost a year ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
May 22, 21.
Okay, so 7, 8, 9 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So
Yeah, I noticed y'all here, we're doing it for, New Year's, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
yes. But if you go to our YouTube channel, then you can look up all the previous broadcasts. Because I started off streaming this on Twitch, and then I linked it to YouTube. Because then I found out I don't have to upload the video if I live stream through YouTube,
Mhm.
and it just saves a bunch of time.
So I take it the goal of it is to essentially get opinions of other actual, like, server admins for the community to just kind of, like, pick through and learn from.
Well, we discuss various topics that's to help the admin community. We've done a couple episodes on best server procedures. Anybody else can chime in because I'm still tired and brain is not fully
Right.
functioning yet. No caffeine.
I haven't had my coffee yet, but I can run through the list that we've already covered in different episodes. But
That'll work.
like what to do about hackers, duping exploits, basic hardware requirements, best practices, which is better, self-hosting or renting, rules that are good to have and why we have them, how you deal with maps, backing up your servers, donations, and the fine EULA line, and then the different server managers. And then I basically stopped tracking because it was very fluid what we talked about.
So
Ah.
we've covered a lot of stuff. I don't mind going back over stuff if we need to,
Sure.
because we get new people to join daily, and they might not want to go back and listen to our wonderful programs.
Our rambling tangents.
Yeah, that's mostly me.
I didn't say anything.
I can own up to it.
Hmm.
So what?
But
Did
Coy,
you?
since you're here and you got a whole bunch of stuff, we can start covering the things that you were discussing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of skeptical if it's even relevant because I suspect a lot of the server admins here just haven't been around as long, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around since Alpha 14.7, so July of 2016.
Okay, that's a little long.
I've been playing the game since Alpha 7.
Oh, that's just one past me. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was shortly after it released on Steam as well, around that time.
Which is probably around Alpha 7-ish, I do believe. Something like that. Yeah, because if I remember right, that's right about when they first had that on Steam.
Yeah, I think
Been
before
a
that it
long
was
road.
just a Kickstarter.
If I remember correctly, Alpha 7 is the first alpha where they took out the map, essentially, which basically helped you cheat and you figure out exactly where zombies were relative to you.
First things I remember, because I have a shit memory, is basically it still had the Minecraft type crafting. Forges had the...
Yeah, grid crafting.
Yeah, the grid crafting, thank you.
Forges still had molds too, I believe.
Molds. Oh, fucking molds. Oh, I still have PTSD from looking for a bullet shell. Casing, sorry, casing.
With that particular setup, which it was a bit tedious to get to that point, but the best thing you could do is like have one forge for like one specific thing, have a row of them, and then have like a whole floor dedicated to like a particular type of forge, like for just cement or just
Yeah, it was just a pain in the butt.
Wait a minute, your voice is familiar. Were you the one that made some tutorial videos way back?
No.
No. Huh.
That could have been Dolly. But I don't think we sound too terribly alike. I don't know, women, we all sound the same, right?
Wow.
Yeah, see, it's a surprise for people to learn that Karma is actually, double X chromosome. Because everybody just thinks that she's male.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you haven't listened to the show, you don't know.
Usually.
I get it the opposite way. Everyone thinks I'm a woman.
Do they?
Well, there
I
was that
hope
incident
Photo's
with
a
the sheep
woman.
once.
Lift up your kilt and show him. Like, nope.
Wait, do you wear a kilt?
He's Scottish. He has to.
I've worn a kilt once in my life for
Was
my
that to-
dad's wedding.
Yes, yeah, I was
Aw.
going to say it was a wedding.
That's awesome.
Wait, the question is, did you have underwear on? Because if you had underwear on,
I
it's a
am not
skirt.
asking that.
Yeah, but see, if you have underwear on, then it's a skirt and not a kilt.
Mm.
Oh.
I get told that all the time.
Well, there's no point wearing a kilt if there's not a nice breeze.
Right. I have
Oh.
I have a friend. His online name is DJ Kilt Boy because he's a DJ and he's of Scottish descent and loves wearing kilts, especially utility kilts. So he has told me numerous times, and I have another friend who likes to wear his kilt to weddings and other gatherings, and he has also told me the exact same thing. So I'm glad I'm not Scottish.
It's even worse because it's bloody freezing here.
God,
If
I
that's
can
your
imagine.
excuse, then okay.
So about those tangents.
Yes, yes.
Feel free to critique and pick through them, because actually, people that have been around a while and particularly interested on what they would disagree on.
Well, I'm trying to. Yeah, I haven't had my coffee yet, so really leaning forward. There was was the first one mostly about like the traders and how they changed the game a lot. I mean, they really did. How the players interacted with each other, because I was running a server by that time. The player economy and all that.
Oh yeah.
I know cooperatively, like I run a PvE server, so it used to be if you had too much trash or too much crap, you would just go drop it off in a community area.
Yeah, which is definitely a benefit.
And people would trade with each other. Although now the benefit is that they all have their own vending machines, so they can sell them pretty easily. So it's a little bit easier to keep track, and you don't have somebody wiping out the entire stash. Because
I gotta
you're
admit,
an a-hole.
I like the vending machine. If you break them, if I remember correctly, nothing actually drops out of it, which is a little bit exploitive for base rating. But anyway.
If you can break them without dying because of all the zappy, sure.
Yeah.
I remember I was cleaning up one of our player shop areas where everybody had dropped vending machines, and we were running out of room. So I was not in God mode, and I was breaking up some vending machines, and one hit with my band hammer was fine. And then all of a sudden I just dropped over dead because the zappy killed me. I'm like, oh right,
Well.
I should be in God mode when I do this. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, the dot on that's pretty strong. Holy crap.
It's fun.
I don't know if rockets would be, if those ignore it or not.
I mean, you can destroy them. They have hitboxes, and they're
Yeah.
susceptible to it. So I guess it kind of depends.
Still a nice deterrent.
Yeah. In the, I don't know, how many years have they been around? 4 or 5 years now? I don't remember. But in the entire time that we've had like the vending machines for players, I've never once had a vending machine destroyed by a malicious player. Knock
Yeah,
on wood.
honestly, it never. I mean, no, it happened to me, but it was mostly because I was an idiot and put it literally straight on like a piece of snow, and they just dug under it and let it collapse.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
like
that'll
I
do
used to tree
That'll
farm.
do it.
That'll
Mhm.
do it. I
Right.
didn't like claim it or nothing. I just kind of left it out, see what would happen.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, like a honeypot. Yeah, look at this. What you gonna do?
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. They
I've
usually
got
seem
a-
pretty good.
It was
I've
literally
got-
because I had so much food this alpha that I was trying to see if anybody would buy the extras and how high the demand was and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Last
nobody
alpha,
cooks.
the trader protection on my server hub went off, and I
Oof.
didn't notice for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I have six traders there, and
Yeah.
I have each one like their stall is all like themed for just each one has their own theme. Like one's
Mhm.
weapons, one's books, one's medicine.
Oh yeah.
And they're all kind of decorated that way. And I came on and I noticed the bars in the front. One of them had been broken off, so someone could jump in. And
Uh-huh.
they looted all the weapon crates.
Oh boy.
Yep.
I noticed that too with CPM that I don't think the trader protection goes away, but it does like in a certain like 5 or 6 block area, so they can just get in through that.
Yeah.
Wow. Did not know that
Botman
one.
does the same thing. Sometimes it will shift, and I don't know why.
Maybe it's a game limitation.
It must be, yeah.
It could be, but it's so inconsistent on where it's doing that. They must have used a similar system for applying the protection.
So it's not the game itself, it's that particular mod, I'm guessing.
Well, we have different mods. I mean, I run Botman. I think you guys all run CSMM.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all or they all have that issue?
Sounds like it.
Hmm.
Like I said, inconsistent.
A lot of them they heavily use Alex server fixes, so that they'll have that in common.
Let's blame Alex. Not his fault.
It's pretty buggy right now.
It's still not updated.
Right.
Hey, at least it works.
Oh, hey, where's Silent?
Oh, Silent too.
Oh, and Peter, yeah, that's right too.
Well, Peter's in Australia, so it's actually Monday at probably about noon. So he's probably driving a truck somewhere, trying not to, destroy the house in the back. Silent though, I don't know. He thought we were doing yesterday.
Oh, that's right too.
We were very organized on this episode. Very, very organized.
Yes.
It's kind of a last minute thing.
A little.
Almost, yeah.
So aside from the exploits that cropped up through the years of trading, which it's fixable things like the half wood blocks were selling for 50 dukes each, or like the wet concrete was selling for I think 50 dukes each, which was hella exploitive. Oh my god. So like discounting that, I'm curious how the rest of you feel about trading mechanics in general and questing and how that's changed everything. Personally, I've noticed player trading itself happens a lot less. Well, directly anyway, like transporting goods and all that. Vending machines still happen, but it's like you're not trading mass ores to each other all the time. You're not really trading brass much.
Well, brass is still one of the hardest things to get, in my opinion.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
You can melt dukes for it, by the way.
Yep.
You could, but why?
Who burns money?
Right, exactly.
You get a lot of ammo now, though.
Yeah, you do.
And loot.
Yeah, that comes from the Trader Quest. I actually kind of like the Trader Quest. I didn't at first because I play with a group of 3 people, me and 2 friends. And I'm usually the one who does the base building and the majority of the resource gathering for that. And they go out and hunt. They go out and do the exploration. I just started going out on the quest with them. So, I kind of like the quest. I don't like, and I've reiterated this many, many times, how almost every POI has been turned into what Mad Mole calls a dungeon crawl. I do miss the simple POIs. You go in, okay, there's maybe a few sleepers, and boom. But everything is, a quote-unquote maze that you have to follow the lights, to get through it. And I would like that for the bigger buildings. When you hit your, the bigger crack of books, the bigger pharmaceutical, the hospital, all that kind of stuff, the big stuff, the oil refinery, but not for your small everyday houses.
The bigger stuff even, what a lot of players will do is they'll literally just frame up or break into exactly where the main stash is, grab just that, and leave. They won't even touch anything else anymore.
Yeah, I don't really like the nerd polling. I don't necessarily think I have a rule in the server, but I highly discourage it because to me it takes away from the game, from the actual exploration and fighting the zombies. It's like
that's my particular biggest gripe with the questing. It's that making loot very centralized and easy to get to. So like you'll even double hit it where you you frame up to it or break into it, hit it or grab everything once, then reset with the quest marker, grab it again. And then on top of that, I also kind of don't like being told where to go and what to do. I miss the old way where you basically just look for whatever wasn't scavenged yet and try to find even like little hidden stuff behind walls and floors and then just make your way essentially.
Well, what you could do is create your own quests too. Go to the modding aspect of the game and design your quest for the players on your server.
Howland's been doing that. He's been wanting to scrap the ones that already exist and then come up with his own clear quest, essentially, and get rid of main stash, essentially, and then spread out the loot more evenly, and I think lower the brass and ammo count, so that way players have to look for it more in trash piles and stuff like that. Maybe lower the food count, too.
Well, you need to take into account that the game has gotten easier over the years.
Yep.
And as a longtime player, I hate that. As someone who understands business, I understand why they did it, because they need to attract new players to keep their revenue coming in. They don't do microtransactions or anything like that, which is great. But, I understand they need a new player base, to keep revenue coming in. But at the same time, you have all these people who have been playing, since you released the game back in 2013, or those who have been playing long enough where, everything wasn't, really easy.
And I know a plethora of them, and a lot of them quit.
Yeah, because it got too easy. Now, the other side of that coin is they support the modding community mostly. They've hired a few modders. More recently, one of the guys that does the POIs was a modder for the POIs, like created all that. Hal 9000 got hired by TFP. He's the original one who created the SDX, where you would have to replace the assembly sharp DLL and be able to inject code into the game to do various things.
Wait a minute, so they're openly okay with that? I didn't know that.
So they hired him. He had a couple other things. If you search YouTube for Hal 9000, some of his videos should come up. He had a drone back in like A15 or A16. Basically, you would call the drone. It would it would come pick up a crate and take it back to your base.
Oh, damn.
So you could keep.
That's where they got the idea.
Yeah. So that was years ago. And he also had some other stuff. Hal 9000, I think, was the first one to come up with a, was it not a map generator? Maybe it was a map generator. Before Nitrogen, before Kingwin, he had.
Wow.
So, Hal, very talented person. I've interacted with him a few times on the modding server, but it's been a long time.
Nice to see that they're actually hiring from the modding pool, because I noticed they take a lot of their ideas from the modding community, actually.
Yeah, and Madmole was dead set against that for years. And
They're finally lighting up.
Yeah, but I think what it is, it's the modders they're hiring. I think they have 3 or 4 modders from the community that they hired. I could be wrong, but I think that's around where it's at. Because they all started as modders for different games. And that's pretty much how how the TFP came about. Because I think Madmole was heavy on modding for Skyrim.
Huh. I think it was Quake.
Oh, was it Quake? Yes, Quake, yes. So, they were all modders for a game at some point. Alec is the most friendly to the modding community. He gets a bunch of stuff put in. From what I understand, is most of the stuff he does is dedicated server side.
Nice.
And who's the other German guy?
Gaz.
Gaz is modder friendly as well. And Prime is very modder friendly. So, with having them kind of on our side a little bit, that helps get things into the game. I'm a little disappointed they never got the zipline working, but I understand. You have a fully voxel game that uses a lot of resource, digging down so far and stuff like that. So, not everything can be accomplished. But I wish they would come up with working elevators. That would be cool.
Oh, elevators.
You can actually do that with mods, I believe. Actual elevators.
Yeah, but you can't pick the floors. It goes up and it goes down, because Guppy Car come up with an elevator in a previous iteration, and
there's an elevator in the game already, but it's set floors. It only goes up and down a set number of floors. You can't change.
Yeah. So maybe eventually you can get one you can actually pick the floor, or maybe a modder could figure that out with the code injection.
Yeah,
Has
that would
anybody
be kinda
tested it
nice.
recently to see if the elevator still works in 20? I haven't looked for it.
I tested it in A19, but I haven't looked at it again in A20.
I don't think they probably
Kinda the same.
touched that yet. That's probably not even on the radar right now.
No.
Maybe we
That
can
would
get
be
that
kind of
fixed.
nice.
Yeah.
Tower bases right now are essentially just using not elevator hatches, but like a system where you would essentially place a bunch of elevators towards the middle, and you would like open one, jump up, close it really quick, and then you would be sitting on top of it, and then rinse, repeat, which is
Mhm.
slow, but at least it works.
Yeah.
As a kind of replacement back when they fixed the elevator hatch bug, which oh my god, that was a fun time, honestly.
That was.
Oh man, in PvP servers, actually, it was really entertaining because some people made them and then would have trap rooms straight above them, and then people would shoot straight up into the trap room and die.
Has anyone made an elevator that's just a one block shaft and it's just filled with water and you just go in it and you can go up and down freely?
Swimming got hella debuffed as far as speed goes, but it used to be fast, so that's an interesting thought.
I mean, you could always throw a modded item in there to increase the swimming speed too.
Yeah.
Yeah, was there not a perk? I don't think it's still in the game, but I'm pretty sure there was a perk that increased your swimming speed, but it was kind of...
Oh, it existed for like either a full alpha or only a part of an alpha, but it got immediately taken out, I think. It was like athletics or something, or related to that. Dang.
It wasn't really that useful.
Yeah, that was the sad part. And if I remember correctly, that was the alpha where swimming speed was generally faster, but to deal with it, the devs essentially made zombies faster as well, so you couldn't just like hide out in the water and avoid them.
Well, technically, at that time, if you're out in the water, you would suppress spawning anyway. So.
Yeah, that too. And then they kind of got tired of. Our main players, I think, were complaining something about zombies just coming at them from like near the ocean regions and like really, really fast and surprising them and shit, I think, and then they kind of got annoyed with it. I think.
I remember at one point a few alphas ago, it could have been 15 or 16, but someone, it might have been Stallions Den, I don't remember, but they made like a little marina POI and put sleeper volumes in the little lake that they had. So even if you went in, you would trigger the sleepers and the zombies would wake up.
That's clever.
I mean, I think that's something. That's definitely something Stallions would do, but I don't know if it was actually him that did it. But I do remember that because I had like a few docks, a few like cabins nearby, and it was before everything got converted to fucking stupid mazes that you have to go through.
Oh yeah. Which the mazes can totally be gotten around. You just have to memorize the layout and then figure out the shortest way to dig through or jump up in.
Let me knock out these 2 blocks here. Oh, there's loot room.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know about that trick, and I felt dumb. How you could like use 1 or 2 blocks to scale up a building instead of straight up nerd pulling. That surprised me. With I think you need higher athletics or not athletics.
The
parkour to do that. Yeah.
Parkour,
Yeah, I saw one very professional PvP sniper using that, and oh my god, he was terrifying with it.
Yeah, parkour's crazy.
Yeah, it's always been crazy. I remember back when Wellness would give you reduced damage to, or reduced falling damage if you had that thing maxed up, and players would like hoard it like mad just so they could go raid tower bases because they could like nerd pull in from a long distance before gyros were a thing. That was nuts. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, so you've talked about some of the stuff you don't like that's Change of Earth. Is there anything that you do like that came in new alphas?
Could be like 1 or 2 things.
Like, I like the addition of actual vehicles in Alpha 17.
Yeah, that's something they've been wanting to do for a while, but yeah, that's been nicer, honestly.
You know,
Yeah,
and now with Alpha 20, they added in the vehicle mod, so the 4x4 can actually take 4 people if you put the extended seat in.
Cough, cough, X-ray, cough, cough.
It's still a bug they're
Aside
working
that,
on.
It's like for PvE servers, it's fine. It actually is pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, remember, the intention of the game originally was 8-player co-op PvE and not PvP, but people like to kill each other, so generally I run 2 servers, a PvE and a PvP, but my servers have not been populated for a while, so I only have a PvP server up right now. But getting people
surprising.
back on, you know. But well, see, here's the thing: every new alpha, people discover the game and more servers pop up.
Yep.
So at one point back in alpha 15 and 16, I had 15 to 20 players on each server type.
Oh yeah, if
I
you
had-
either have a particular spare you're aiming for with it, or if you're advertising correctly, like how NA PvP had their little, their particular logo, then you can easily get a decent traffic right at the start of alphas.
Yeah, so I had active admins on both. I got to take a step back. I didn't have to be so involved, and it was great for me. You
Nice.
know. So I now have more hours adminning than I do actual playtime. And then a lot of that comes from, okay, new alpha, played it for like, maybe 20, 30 hours, and now I'm bored. Like I have almost 1,300 hours of playtime. If I
I
didn't
feel like
Go ahead.
part of that's the progression system currently. I feel like it's not as long-winded or entertaining as it used to be, but that might just be me.
Well, so they changed one grind to another. So before,
Yeah.
in the earlier alphas, you had to save up for a couple levels to get points to unlock certain perks or skills or whatever you want to call them. And it's like, okay, you really had to decide how you were going to go with your character especially early on. Like,
Yeah.
you want to get this Met Mixer, you need 3 skill points. Well, you're only getting 1 skill point per level. And then they introduced the attributes, and I don't like attributes. I think attributes should give you a bonus and not lock the skills behind it.
Got it. Yeah, that was a bit annoying.
Yeah, it's difficult when it's like, well, I want to use a machete and a shotgun, but you can't do that without investing in 2 entirely different perk trees. So it takes double the points to make your build.
Typically, just because of that, people that run shotguns have to run sledges, essentially, which a lot of people don't like that, even if I do personally. I kind of feel bad for them. But, yeah, a lot of people I heard tend to like that one particular alpha where you had to, like, level up your skills, or some of your skills, essentially, by doing things, like crafting a shit ton of stuff. Although that was the one alpha that essentially made it so people would have boxes and boxes of crafted things like tools and stuff that they would just break.
Yeah,
and get
to
rid
learn
of.
by doing. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I kind of missed that, but I don't like the fact, I didn't like the fact you had 5,000 stone axes. Yeah.
That was annoying.
I do miss the ability to upgrade stuff in the workbench by like when you actually had to get the gun parts to assemble the guns. Where
I trying to bring that back too. It's still there. You have the ability. It just might be a little bit buggier. It might require a certain way to do it, but maybe, hopefully, we can get it back in with the particular mod. Yeah, you did that. And if I remember correctly, it worked such that you would get 5 levels of upgrade if you combine 2 items with the exact same level. It might be higher if they were at max durability, and durability mattered too, so you couldn't cheese it.
Right. Which you would only repair everything first and then do the upgrade. But yeah.
Which means level 600 gear, which is like modern 6. Getting that stuff, you just combined a shit ton of stuff together, which took general farming, but it didn't require doing questing and going to level 5 quest and doing specific things and then hoping that your RNG pays off.
Right.
Something that I've noticed is that, generally speaking, players will only do what's the most efficient in the goal. From what I've seen, they choose spam crafting steel to sell at the traders, because the traders will always have better loot than what you can find out in the world. So from the players,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, from the player's point of view, there's no point looking in all these hundreds of fancy new POIs we got in A20, because you can get everything you ever needed from traders.
Yeah, generally the current meta, if I remember correctly, is you have one player crafting stuff like that as early as possible to sell to the trader, also tools, because they sell for quite a bit. Selling all that to trader, and then you have the rest of the players in the team just go out and questing as much and as fast as possible to get their quest rank up, so they can do the bigger or better POIs, so they can get the higher end gear. And what ends up happening is they end up selling a lot of their gear that they don't want from previous raids. They don't scrap it, they don't do anything with it, because it's just that worthless. Honestly. It's... ugh. And if you could see the damage and resistance differences of high stat level 6 gear as far as like weapons and armor go, it would be kind of, well, semi-gross. Honestly. It's not like the worst, but it's a little gross. And it's very hard to get that stuff. In the PvP scene specifically, a lot of people go from trader to trader at very, like, exactly when they're resetting. They'll take a motorcycle or a gyro or whatever, exactly go from trader to trader as fast as possible, buy up all the AP ammo possible, and anything else they particularly need, dump all their worthless stuff, and basically fight over them, more or less. So any noob that's going to a trader usually has a very hard time getting anything out of it, or even surviving, because they're likely to get shot in the back.
What I like to do when I had active PvP server is I would create a basically an admin trader, or trading zone, I should say, and I would make it PvE.
Oh,
So
I think I've heard of that.
I would go in, and more so it would be for being able for players to trade their stuff. So I would put in, I'd put in and this was before you could just buy the vending machine. Like I had to mod it so you could buy the player vending machine, you could put it out, but it was a safe zone. Yeah. And then you could, then anybody could go there without fear of being killed. So, you do that. That, for me, that encourages player interaction in a safe area. I would also put out a few workbenches, forges, cement mixers, stuff like that, for players who didn't quite have the skills yet to do that, but they had access to it.
I think that's a good balance. Also, that would encourage potentially actual like mass player trading instead of just by vending machines, potentially, depending.
Right.
Occasionally, you get someone that wants gas and someone that's already farmed a bunch or something like that.
Right. So this way, you had a safe place to go, and like I said, with the vending machines, you put it in, you set your price, people are going to buy it or not, and then they have the mysterious NPCs that show up and buy some of your shit anyway.
Oh yeah. Which is
have we confirmed that that's real?
I've seen it in a I seen it when I was playing that one mod. What was it called? Darkness Falls. But I don't know if it's because it fixed it in that particular solo play, or if that mechanic was already there.
I think it was like Alpha 15 I last used it, and they did buy items, but it's very slow, so it's not really worth doing.
And I think they only buy like one item. They won't like buy a big stack, like a big stack of medicine or food or whatever.
It's just
you generally want to put tools in it and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just to have some movement on it. So, the player makes a little bit of money from it, but then, it's really up to other players if they want to go buy stuff.
Yep.
And I like that better than, let's go, you get all this good loot from the trader. Like, the trader should offer you, something decent, unless, and then if you had the, what's the one perk? It's like 3 levels and you get to the secret stash. If you had that, maybe you should get the better loot.
Barter.
Right, better barter, right. And if you had that, you got better loot rewards. So
I remember people exploiting that too, using the one glass
Daring Adventure
different loot.
Gives you the better returns on the quests and stuff.
Yeah, I never got to try that. I heard it's pretty OP, but I didn't.
It is very nice to have when you're doing quests. Very, 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 very nice.
Which one?
Definitely. The Daring Adventurer.
Oh, yeah.
I thought the amount of dukes it offered was like kind of meh compared to the items you get that you can just sell.
Yeah. And then if you get high enough, you get 2 reward items per quest.
Yeah, I usually take that. Since I started questing and stuff, I usually take that because, sometimes it's ammo, sometimes it's this. And now with this release, they've added some other stuff in there.
This release, there is one thing that I like about it, and probably the only thing really, is the pipe weapons they added. It adds a nice early game balance that doesn't, particularly for PvP, that's really nice. And even PvE wise, you have like a huge amount of variety instead of just melee bows and
You don't like all the new shapes?
I didn't pay too much attention, but it did look
oh my god.
Karma's
oh my god. Oh my god.
I didn't play with it yet.
How?
For
a freaking month.
I'm waiting for a particular server to come up that's a favorite of mine, but he's waiting for 20.1 to come out essentially.
The stable, yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be nice. That will have all the drone fixes.
The only thing I got to do this alpha was like a couple of solo runs, a couple of runs that were kind of like one just me by myself testing things out, and the other was with a couple of friends with literally all the settings on max for zombies, including always run, just for shits and giggles. Which, by the way, really brings home the one particular trick that you can use, where you can use hatches and doorways and stuff like that to keep them at bay, and reinforce POIs like that.
What do you think of Feral Scent?
We use that too. I heard it's buggy, but when it works, it's kind of nice.
My players seem to like it. I have it turned on at night. I'm like, okay, if you guys want to die. Well, I mean, my players have a safe place they can port to at night, so it's not that big a deal. But I think it helps with one of the points that you had quite earlier about fewer roaming hordes.
Oh yeah, it does help with that, because you're usually going to have stuff just magically stick on you.
Yeah.
Stick on you.
And
I have that on 24/7.
Although I've noticed, like, when you're first spawning into a new world, a new map, obviously there's
you don't
going to
get
be
anything for a couple minutes, but after that, it's
but they'll come out of the woodwork. But then once you've got an established server and you've been going for a while and you've got constant players, there's a lot fewer because they're on a cycle, respawn cycle. So it's not nearly as. So I miss the wandering hordes. I loved when I was. It was probably back in A9, be building my little thing, not paying attention, and out of the corner of my eye, I'd see like an incoming horde, and I was playing mostly single player at the time, so it was
even
always
on
for
servers,
me.
I swear that stuff would happen occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like too evenly distributed. I think if I remember correctly, it was more like players randomly got a big horde.
Oh yeah, in 15
like
and
no secrets either.
15, 16. I think they fixed that in 16. But yeah, one player or one group of players would get the horde for horde night, and that was it. All the other players were safe. But they fixed that.
It's a lot better. It's still slightly problematic, and there's a lot of variance depending, but like it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be, thank God. So that's nice. I didn't get to test thoroughly with A20, but I'm assuming it's about the same as A19.
Have you guys noticed that screamers don't seem to be quite so sensitive anymore? Like it takes a lot more to get one to spawn.
Yeah.
I like
a little bit.
Because they got annoying quickly. It's like, oh, great, screamer. Okay, all right. Now it's like, oh, let's farm the zombies. Like in A19, I had it set up. You get 2 points per skill. 2 points when you level up for skills. And then I had the zombie loot drop up, I think, to 15 or 20% chance. Because that's something we kind of missed from the earlier ones with the zombies dropping the loot and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of increased that a little bit. It works great on Horde Night, regular little hordes, the wandering hordes that hop by. It gives you a little bit of stuff, but nothing too crazy. But you really get the farming out of the Horde Night.
Almost like increasing the how often that happens, but maybe give it more loot, but not like insane quality loot, and then dropping the overall loot quantity of everything else in general might be an interesting idea, depending.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to modding the loot containers or anything like that yet. That's something I haven't touched on.
I've been told it takes a while to nail that down nicely.
Yeah, that's something you gotta test and refine several times. Actually, if I was gonna do that, I would just bug Kane, who does Darkness Falls. I'm like, dude, what's the best way to go about this?
So you think the admins might not actually mind if people modified the game code essentially to like try and help server runtimes and stuff like that?
I don't think anybody's come out with an API that does that.
I'm actually helping work on one, essentially, to be honest.
So, nice. I don't. Well, here's the thing, though. They do moderate. What's the word I'm looking for? Moderate optimizations for each alpha. They're not going to once it goes to beta, and that should be, I think, after Alpha 22 maybe, or after Alpha 21, is when they're going to start the optimization passes, because basically all the core stuff they want in there is going to be in there, and then they can just concentrate on optimizations. So basically the game's optimized enough just to play it. They have it because every time, you're a coder. You know, 99, you know, bugs in the program, patch one down, and then 123 bugs in the program. So they're not going to waste their time with anything that's not major to fix until it comes to time that, like, okay, well, we got everything in we wanted to get in as a base. Now let's go through the full optimization process. And then after that's done, then we're like, okay, now we'll start adding some other stuff. Like, one of the Kickstarter goals was to make the game VR, at least as far as vision. So you could put on your VR headset and you can look around in VR, but it's still going to be keyboard and mouse over the VR controls, as far as I understand.
Actually, I could get behind that, but holy crap, is that going to take so much work?
Yeah,
You know-
I've got some quite large concerns with that.
Well, I'd imagine they'd probably
no,
bring someone on that specializes in that to be able to do
It's more
that.
than that. You have severe data latency between the VR headset and then the computer, and then just general processing is going to take so much, especially on the rendering side with the voxels. And I'm not saying it can't be done. It's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
player who does VR, and they were mentioning that that's what they did, and they were discussing what it would take. It was only just wave-top stuff, but they didn't see a huge, massive problem with having it be on a VR platform. Granted, I didn't speak deeply with them, and I don't know their skill level, but they thought it was quite possible.
generally
It is possible.
for VR, you want a nice stable 90 frames per second, because
Mhm.
if you can't get that level of performance, you'll get micro stutter and that sort of thing, and that generally causes
Vertigo?
nausea. So at no point
Even
in
if
7
you go
Days to
to 60,
Die's history has the game
Yeah.
ever been able to maintain 90 frames per second
I mean,
stably.
Well, this
like
remember
back in
this.
Alpha 6, it kind of got that way, but at the same time, not always, because you get into certain instances where it would drop.
0, 0.
Yeah, remember this is post gold, so this is post optimization that they're gonna work on that.
Which
So-
I will say up front is going to take them at minimum a year after the fact to get it nice and ready for something like that.
Right, and that's fine
before they
because the
even
game's out of
begin
alpha.
Yeah. And that's assuming like they actually spend time to be willing to break things and just change a lot of the back end, which means they're going to have to be willing to throw a lot of things out, which is going to be hell for them, to be honest. But yeah, if they want to do it proper, that's what has to be done.
Right, and you know, like I said, it's a Kickstarter goal. It's after the game hits, you know, full release. You know, that's something for them to work on, and they don't have to release like alphas of this, like, oh hey, check out the VR alpha. They don't have to do that. They can.
Yeah.
The game will be gold, and then at that point, you know, we'll have Steam Workshop. You know, we're trying to push Alec a little bit to push that out a little earlier, because Fury doesn't want to keep continuing to work on the mod installer that he made to make it easier, but because Steam Workshop will be the best thing.
Do they have goals as far as like runtimes concerns go? Like, okay, we want to support this number of zombies or this max-sized worlds or like this many things within a chunk or anything like that?
I'm sure they do, but they're not publicly released.
Darn.
So I do believe, I don't know if it was Fatal or Gaz, but someone wanted to make wanted them to get up to a 16K map for stable. You know,
It could be done.
It could be Prime, right? But again,
Honestly, the UMA
optimizations.
thing is ever since that started, so many problems came up.
Well, I thought they got rid of the UMA zombies.
Uh,
I'm pretty
I
sure
think
they
they did,
did.
yeah.
They. I'm pretty sure they got rid of that.
oh, I'm dumb. What's the thing that does the? Oh yeah, no, I'm messing up. The thing that does the LOD for like POIs and stuff like that from a far distance.
Dynamic mesh.
Yes.
That's HAL 9000. He's the one who came up with that.
It's a mixed bag.
It is. It's still, remember, it's the first time it's been deployed, so they're going to have issues with it. You know, I'm sure it's being refined. You know, but that was him that came up with that. And like anything else, you know, you put something out into production and, well, shit, there's stuff that we didn't find in testing.
I don't know if that's what's limiting world size, but I noticed in general world size has been a lot more limited since a while ago. And I didn't get to run servers back then or anything like that either, so I don't know exactly what was eating up RAM space.
Well, again, unoptimized. So yes, world size. If you had a 12K map, you needed like 12 gigs of RAM. That has
It's like nothing compared to what it needs right now.
so.
If I remember right.
Well, no, they actually did a lot. Unfortunately, I have found that the dedicated servers, has issues generating the map. So,
Huh.
at one point in last alpha, Linux couldn't generate a map, and that's
What?
what yeah. So that's what I primarily run my servers on, is Linux.
Yeah.
So, because it uses less resources and manages them better, and you don't have to reset
Yeah,
as often,
if you
even
get
on
the
a
right
busy
operating
server.
system, and yeah, especially if you're just renting servers from somebody, it's generally a lot cheaper. They don't have to deal with Windows licensing or any of that crap.
Well, I host my own, so, and I have ever since I started running servers. I just,
I've been wanting to do that, so kudo.
I also have a gigabit package from my internet provider, so it doesn't matter to me because I can stream through my Plex server. I can download and still run servers and not see any degradation in my speed.
Really, also nice if you happen to be like a game dev or a programmer at the same time that just kind of needs the bandwidth.
Yeah. It's good having fiber optic.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I lost my train. The train is derailed.
Something dealing with current server issues, something or server hardware.
Oh yeah, so with the maps. So now I generate my map locally and then upload it to the server and just mod the server config to match my world and stuff like that. It took me about 8 minutes, I think, to do a 10K map locally. Now I'm running a 3900. I'm running a 3900X. I've got 64 gigs of RAM, So it's not bad. But before it would take hours to get like a 10K map, and I ain't got time for that.
There was variance. It used to be shorter for a while, then it went up that high, and then they finally got it nice and short again.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because in Alpha 18 they started utilizing the GPU in the client for generating a map, but on the server you don't have.
You don't have a GPU. Yeah.
So it's all just on the CPU.
And that could be. Now Pile is working on a map generator, so I'm waiting to see when that gets released to check that out.
5 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, I'm not worried about when it comes out. I just want to try it when it does come out.
It's looking good.
Because Nitrogen is dead. I don't know what Kingwin's doing with KingGen, if he's doing anything, and then Pile decided to come up with his own map one.
And
the reason it takes so long to generate a map is because the game's running all of its libraries and stuff, whereas the map generators like Nitrogen or KingGen are only running a specific thing to generate the map. So
I did some testing on that. I ran the game and I ran KingGen, and then I locked the two applications to the same cores and started generating a map on each of them at the same time. And the KingGen was like 3 minutes something, and the game was like 10 minutes or whatever.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
Because remember, you have all the other crap from the game that's running that doesn't need to be running just to generate the map. So that's why the map generators are so much quicker, because they're only concentrating on one function, where you have the game running all this other extra crap. It'd be nice if TFP could put that in like the tools section, where it would shut everything else off except for map generation.
I did not pay much attention to what takes resources in the main menu. It might be EAC or something, I'm not sure.
In Alpha 20, they seem to have limited the number of threads the game spawns. Before, it would just, if it sees a 16-core CPU, it will utilize a 16-core CPU, but extremely inefficiently. Now it utilizes about 6 threads, and it's much more efficient.
That's strange. For map generation specifically, right?
Well, just for the client in general.
Oh yeah, I never asked exactly what all the other threads were doing. It's definitely I don't think it's all the game logic. It looks like they're trying to do separate systems on their own thread, if that makes sense, which I don't think is the wisest idea. But I'm not exactly sure if that's true or how.
Fred 1, Steam networking server, Fred 2, chunk generation, Fred 3, chunk calculation, Fred 4, chunk mesh bake, Fred 5, generate chunks, and Fred 6, save chunks.
Except that there's a lot of dependency between these different threads, it sounds like. If something's behind and you're at the edge of a chunk, then probably desync? I'm guessing. I could be wrong. That's the kind of thing I discourage, though. If you can, you should do it to where you multi-thread one system with every core, essentially, and then just do it as quick as possible. But you need like a really good thread pool, and it has to make sure that each thread doesn't touch each other's data, essentially. The less mutexes, the less atomics, the better.
I think its main limiting factor is so much stuff is done on the main thread that it doesn't matter what the other cores are doing. If the main thread can't get the work done fast enough, the other cores...
Yep.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's taking off some of the load from the main thread at least, but it's still, the main thread's the bottleneck. And the main thread, I'm guessing, is just straight up game loop?
I'm pretty sure all the thread issues are a Unity issue and not a game issue. But they are, allegedly, they are working with Unity to get some of that stuff, sorted out, so it's more efficient.
I mean, even if it is Unity, if that's really the case, they should just avoid whatever system Unity is using and make their own thread pool.
They might not be able to.
Baloney. That can't be right.
So I know Unity is the cause of some of it. I don't know if it's the cause of all of it. But I know they are working directly with Unity to get stuff resolved. And and they're supposed to be supporting Vulkan at some point too.
Unity supports native APIs, right, for IO stuff, I thought.
I'm not sure. You're out of my realm right now. So I don't think anybody else here is a coder besides you. Because I know Flooded is not here, and he's our resident coder.
Dang, that'd be interesting.
So, I know he's been busy switching jobs and stuff like that, so he hasn't really been around much. Because me and him are teamed up hosting servers. I'm hosting the hardware and helping out where I can. Where he was like the main, he was the main admin for everything. So, with his time being taken up, I've been like filling in. But our Discord for that's been kind of slow, so it hasn't been much. I know the Empyrean server we run is managed by someone else, so I know that's being kept up to date, but not much has been done with 7 days. Once it hits stable, then I'll run the command to update it to 20.1 stable. Other than that,
Yeah, I've heard the community's been very split about that currently.
Normally, I would just stay on the stable branch and wait for the experimental patch to come through.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, I think there's quite a lot of must-have fixes in experimental that I was just, I'm just gonna jump to experimental instead of waiting.
Haloon's kind of feels a bit conflicted about that because all the mods he's doing, essentially, if he does it for just A20, then it's not going to work on A20.1. Because it has to do with some of those fixes, because he fixed some of the things himself, honestly. Yeah, and then we're kind of just twiddling our thumbs waiting for A20.1. He's worried that he'll put up a server and only last for like 2 weeks, and dealing with all that managing hell when he could have just been spending time working on the mods more. And then the server just ending early. He likes running servers that last for a couple of months, at least, if not more.
My A15 server was over 4,500 days before I took it down.
Dang!
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's nostalgic.
Yeah, I actually had one guy who was a secret admin because he would play a lot, and I said, hey, listen, I'm gonna make you an admin. You don't need to be public. Just keep an eye on things. If something doesn't go right, just send me a message, let me know, and then I'll come investigate it. But while you're at it, can you just start spawning in cars randomly? Because that's before we had, reset regions and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That used to take up a lot of mod time.
So that's basically its primary function. Keep an eye on shit. If you see anybody cheating, let me know. I don't need you to do any other interaction. No one else knows you're an admin. Just keep an eye on things and just spawn some cars in when you get the chance.
Nice.
That was his only function. I'm like, all right, Then I had my other admins for other stuff. Like, I really wish the PvP server would take back off because my one friend that I made through the game, who actually lives maybe like 40 minutes away from me, was my primary PvP admin, and he would run events and other stuff on the server to keep people interested and stuff like that. And I'm like,
dang.
If we had the populace, I'm like, dude, I need you back. I need you to come, do this.
Finding good admins and finding good admins that want to cater to that field, which, by the way, that particular subsection does require a lot of knowledge up front because you deal with a lot of things that PvP servers don't. Then,
right.
Holy moly, that's rare.
If he didn't know, he would just call me or text me or, just reach out to me like, hey, listen, I got this issue. Okay, well, this is what you do. Oh, okay, you know what? This is a little above your knowledge. Let me pop on. You know?
Pretty much every good server honestly needs at least one or two mods that are around to help.
Yeah, well, my PvE server was highly active. I had several mods that that could handle stuff. Like, oh, boop, there you go. You had access. I gave them access to the CM menu. The kick ban. They're basically admins. I just called them mods. Like, you guys handle stuff. If there's something you're not sure about, send me a message.
Makes sense, yeah.
I like getting everything set up and going, and then I like having trusted people that can just manage things for me so I don't have to be directly involved.
Yep. People that do that particular role are not very common to find either. Especially that.
And I'd only promote people that I know have been on my server for a while, that I've interacted with and, talked to and stuff like that I know I can trust them. So, that is hard to find. Because I've always had people, oh, well, if you need help, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are.
If they immediately ask and they haven't been around long, yeah, it's red flags. Just wait it out and see how they turn out.
I always ask people who don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're eager to do something...
it means you want it for a reason.
Right. Hey, Carmen, you should take a note of, maybe we can cover, signs to look for when making someone a mod or an admin, and we can talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for the PvP scene, I've got a buttload offer for that one.
We all do.
Hopefully next time we won't be so last minute. We can get some more people in here. And we can do it on a Saturday so we can at least get Peter and maybe Sai.
Sam.
Yeah, I would say if you pinged everybody beforehand, like 12 hours earlier or something, maybe 6, then more would have probably came.
Usually we do
Normally we do it a couple days.
Yeah, normally we do an announcement on Wednesday of that week. And then we do like a half hour before announcement to remind everybody. But, this week has kind of been, crappy. Like, I was really bogged down at work, and I didn't even get everything finished I was supposed to finish by Friday, so Monday I'll be busting that out, but, and I wasn't in work this past Monday, so that cut me back. If I would have been in work, then I probably would have been done. So, and the fact that I lied to my VP, I was like, oh yeah, I'm like this much done, and I really was about half of that done.
Oh boy.
And now you're recording that you've done that.
But he doesn't know about this. So, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it. I'll get everything finished tomorrow, and I should be good. So.
Rooting for you.
I'll get it. It's just the stuff I left is the time-consuming stuff. Everything else that I could get done quickly, I got done quickly. Now everything else is just the time-consuming stuff, and I'm a little tired of dealing with Excel spreadsheets right now.
Yeah, I don't blame you there.
Your bandwidth is reached. I'm like, okay, nope, get the low-hanging fruit taken care of, and no, this other stuff. Okay, we're gonna punt it down the road a little bit.
Yeah, it's I got a couple things where I have to combine multiple spreadsheets and then set it up, and I'm like, and I'm not well versed in Excel as far as like all kinds of formulas. I can do the addition, subtraction, that kind of basic stuff, but anything linking this or linking that, all right, time to open up Google.
Concatenate, concatenate.
Yes, I tried that and it didn't work, so I found another way to do it. There was another formula I used because one of the spreadsheets had like three columns of different descriptions. I'm like, I need to just put this into one and make my life easy.
Yep, concatenate.
Yeah, I tried that and it didn't work. I don't know what I did wrong, but then there was another formula that I found that was much simpler. I'm like, all right, we're going to do this. And it worked. And I'm like, yes.
Sometimes it just takes blunt force trauma of trying different formulas to see what will work.
The second formula worked, and I'm like, all right, good enough for me. Good enough for government work.
Yep. Oh, hey, Koi, I noticed in one of your questions you were talking about tree farms and stuff like that. Did you ever try Sam's tree mod?
No, I didn't get to yet.
It's I find it really handy because my players are, I don't know why, but some of the biggest fights that break out amongst my players are, hey, I planted all those trees, you cut them down, those are my trees, yada 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 bullshit. Also people thinking that like, oh, I've left space between them, there's like 3 blocks. Oh, you mean you put them as close together as you possibly could? Yeah, you didn't leave space between them, so it's like a thing. So what Sam's mod did was it made it so no seeds dropped at all. And trees just regrew once they were chopped down, and if you wanted to get rid of them, you had to dig out underneath them, which was, honestly, I found to be super helpful. And plus, when they were respawning or when they were growing, they would hit different growth cycles, so you had more of a natural-looking environment rather than those rows of trees.
Yeah, I think I saw that on S5 server, if I remember correctly. It's kind of...
It was very handy.
It does tell you where player activity is, but it also, like, just because you see player activity and replanted trees doesn't mean there's a base right there, too, which is its own weird thing.
Oh, right. For PvP, it would be definitely different, sure.
Like, for that, it could be a good end, like, a good and a bad, but, like, interesting, definitely.
I like the idea. A post, Fatal said there's 2 programmers being brought on to look into the performance issues of trees.
I wish they'd hire me.
Good.
You can always apply.
Yeah, I need to do that again. I'm just like I got a portfolio done finally after all this time. I'm just trying to get a website up and finish a game jam to slap that onto, which is literally getting finished today, and see how that goes. But yeah.
Are you proficient in C#? That's what Unity uses.
I know. It like really doesn't even matter. Honestly, the language doesn't matter.
Okay.
As far as making systems or run, like, there's gonna be little stuff I'd suck on, but...
Well, I mean, it happens. Not everybody's strong in everything.
Systems, architecture, and engine architecture and all that, it's pretty universal regardless of the programming language, thankfully.
Yeah, keep checking the website under the careers or jobs, however they have it listed, and see, and it doesn't hurt to apply. The worst you can say is, hey, listen, not right now, maybe you need a little bit more experience. That's the thing. If they say, if you apply for a company and say no, you can always ask them, like, hey, listen, what was the reason I didn't, what skills did I not have or weren't developed enough for me to get this position?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how open they are.
And if it's a good company, they'll tell you, hey, well, listen, we were looking for this, but your skill set in this needs improvement to what we're looking for. Not all companies will do this because basically you're asking, why didn't I get hired? And there's a fine line of, well, what can we tell you versus, what would cause a lawsuit. So if you ask, like, hey, what skills did I not have or needed more development for me to have gotten this position, that that gives them a way that you're asking what you can improve upon without putting them in a position, well, we didn't hire you because of this.
Makes sense.
It's
so,
like...
By the way, what's your like, I don't want to hold you to it, but I'm curious what's your particular opinion on their perspective as far as somebody making a modified server an injection system for the server binary such that they're optimizing server runtimes, so that way you can support more players and stuff like that.
So
I would be hopeful they would be accepting of it, especially if it's posted publicly and they can just copy whatever they want and then
as,
implement it themselves.
well, as long as you make it open source, that's a huge thing with them. Open source, especially with Alec and probably Gaz. So if you're gonna do it, make it open source. My opinion with everything is it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. So, I would do it and see what happens. That's just how I do things. Like, what's gonna happen? They may take a look at it. They may contact you. If you do something like that, that could be a point of, well, this guy had some good ideas. Let's bring him on board. That's how other modders got hired. I don't know if you watched any of the Alpha 20 dev streams that Prime did. But like I said, one of the guys who was a POI modder or creator, they hired him. They hired Hound 9000. It's all about the kind of work you do. So if they see a benefit into it, they'll either A, ask you if you can do the code, or B, potentially offer you a job. So in my perspective of just life in general, just do it, find out what happens. Either you're going to get slapped on the PP, or they're going to, ask you about what you did and blah, 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 and, it could lead to a job.
I don't think the consequences could be too terrible if they get upset about it anyway.
Basically, they would probably just ask you to take it down. That's pretty much, I don't see them, I wouldn't see them doing any kind of legal action or anything, especially if your code is open source. They have full access to it. They can see everything. I say try it. See what happens.
Okay.
If I'd be happy to test that out, especially for optimizations, but like my servers are pretty much dead right now, so I can't, give you an actual basis of like, oh, well, I've got 10 concurrent users most of the time and tell you what happens.
Could crank up the set count potentially.
Right. Karma might be able to do that if she's interested.
Do what? Sorry, I was reading what was posted on one of their channels.
Go ahead, Coy.
If you wanted to test or if I get this particular mod working, that would help server run times. If you'd be willing to test, which either way,
does it require disabling EAC?
That's definitely a goal to avoid.
Yeah, I will not run my server without EAC or hacking protections.
As much of a pain in the butt as EAC is, yeah, I know.
It is
too essential.
It is. Although I will say, we were having massive problems with people not being able to connect, timing out, yada yada yada, and it had everything to do with the dynamic mesh folder that people had local. So once they started dumping that before they tried to get on, things got cleaned up massively. So.
Yeah, generally it's good to remind players to clear out all their player data, essentially map data.
Oh, I agree. But the dynamic mesh one is like super big problem right now, which I've ran up the chain, but I don't know. I run a larger than approved server, and I have quote unquote mods, so But yeah, I'm happy to help out with testing if I can. So
awesome.
Yeah, please feel free to reach out to me directly if you want to.
Awesome.
I'm more than willing to throw up a test server, non-EAC, if someone just kind of wants to keep an eye on it and, say, actually probably what we'd probably do is just keep it private. Just whitelist it. If anybody's interested in playing on it, just add them to the whitelist. And then that way it keeps everybody else out.
We'd like to, in particular, look at runtime specifically for the zombie pathfinding, because if I understand correctly, just by looking at how the game plays, I think that's entirely server side. Because if the server frame rate completely shits itself, they don't move at all.
Right.
And if that's the case, that means I could potentially just multi-thread it server side, make it more cache line friendly and all that sort of stuff, and it should help immensely. To where you could have more zombies and not have problems with the pathing screwing up your server frame rate.
I would like it if people would just consistently get more than a couple zombies on Horde Night, because that one still bothers me. That one really bothers me, and it really bothers me. I have not been able to communicate in an effective way with the dev people. I'm like, this is what's happening. Well, you have mods. It's not the mods.
It's not the
mods. We know it's not the mods.
Even if you had 8-player count, if they're all distributed across the map, same thing.
Well, some of that comes in the hardware too.
This is the one that Sam figured out.
Then it's just straight up distribution problems.
Yeah, Sam was able to do the recreation and show where the like if everybody was in the same party, the party would get like 1 zombie per second for each party, but if there was only one party, that's just not enough zombies, and it's really apparent when you're, you know, quite a few days in and everybody's got their gear and their horde bases, and you just
and
know
then you
like,
got, like the one little noob that comes in that's really low gear and everything, and then they get like, nothing.
Yeah, it just completely borks up the whole spawning on the server. So that one is driving me crazy.
To be fair, it's kind of like a balancing thing. Sorry.
I've been using the CPM Blood Moon Overrider.
Mm.
And I love it. You get 64 zombies on Blood Moon if you're on your own.
Nice.
There's 2 players on, you'll each get 24. And the more players you have, the less zombies you'll get. But the fewer players that are on, you get more zombies, and you get them all night long.
And it's based on per player, I take it, like kind of evenly regardless of level and stuff like that?
Well, that's based on game stage.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's game staged.
Okay. That's still kind of fair.
Yeah, so like Nat said, 64 if you're one player throughout the Horde night, and if it's 2 players, it drops to, what, 24?
Per
player.
20 per player.
Per player. So, you know, that should help, you know, with the server hardware and stuff. So then you're getting 48, but then you got 2 players. But it should constantly be at that 48 until the end of the Horde night.
I can like that.
It also assumes that your game stage is high enough to spawn that many zombies, and
right,
like if it's your first horde, you might get 8 zombies, even if you're the only one on the server.
Maybe there should be like a hard cap minimum number of zombies, and then if the player's low enough a game stage, just spawn in the regular ones and no greens, essentially.
Prisma.
Oh, just in time for what we were just talking about. Anybody want to do a quick recap?
So I believe CPM has a Horde Night fixer, right?
Yes, that's what we're just talking about.
Yeah.
Blood Moon Override for the win.
Awesome.
And then Kui, you suggested that even if they're low level...
Wait, what'd you call him? Kui?
Koi.
Koi.
Like the fish.
That works.
Is it not Kui?
No, it is.
Yeah.
Your East Coast accent. I'm like, Kui? Kui?
No.
What?
No, Koi, like the fish.
I kind of heard Kui too.
I heard Kui.
Aw.
Sorry.
Have more coffee.
Oh, I've got my big old coffee right here. So, sorry to derail.
Yeah, so...
Did you talk, Prisma?
He does not talk, he listens.
Okay.
So... Yeah, I kind of mentioned maybe if maybe you should have like a hard cap minimum zombies per player regardless of game stage if they're essentially too low, and then just spawn in regular zombies, not the green ones. But I don't know how that works exactly.
Don't know if he'll go for that, but it's an idea he can ponder.
Yeah.
If he wants to do it, because CPM isn't really actively developed, not like it was. So basically, if there's a cool new feature he hears or thinks of, he might add it in. Other than that, Prisma just likes to keep it updated to make sure it's working with the current alpha.
If it's got knobs a person could tweak, that would be interesting, even if it's just text file values.
It's got an XML config file.
Yeah, CPM settings.xml. And then CPM string is for the text-based stuff. For like server replies and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Having a field for like a min zombie count and then, I don't know, something. Maybe.
Yeah. It's an idea. Let Prisma ponder if he wants to do it or not. You know, like I said, there's no real active development. So, just a thing maybe here or there.
Yeah.
You know, he's, you know, spending more time doing real world stuff than programming, and I cannot 100% blame him for that, because, you know, life's more important than the game.
There is a add max alive option that you can add zombies to the standard game stage, what you would get with that.
Oh. So more to distribute within the pot. Interesting. Actually, really interesting if somehow a server can actually handle more zombies too.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that part of that comes down to hardware. People think they have like this older hardware, like I should be able to do this. No, sorry.
No. Not only do you need good hardware, you need it'll only work up to a point.
Right.
Currently, multi-threading doesn't solve everything the way it currently is.
Yeah. Like my server runs a 3950X with 128 gigs of RAM, and I've toyed with the idea of upgrading to a 5950X, but I'm like, I don't really see the need for it yet.
The only thing you can really do to make a server run nicer is probably just have a dedicated rig with, like, it doesn't need a shit ton of cores, but it needs minimal latency between CPU and RAM. So, like, smaller RAM sticks, more RAM slots, CPU cache might affect how long it takes to retrieve data and exactly how long certain data might stay in that. I'm not sure. It's something to play with.
Yeah, I know it comes down to gigahertz versus cores. So
it's not exactly.
Not exactly, but
that's
like if you want to talk about like Conan Exiles, as an example, it doesn't matter if you have 32 cores or 16 cores. That uses the gigahertz.
Extremely single-threaded.
Right, that uses the gigahertz, and that limits your player count is the gigahertz, not the cores. So
yeah, that particular franchise, after they made that game, they're like, okay, UE4 encourages actor patterns by default, and it's extremely hard to multi-thread it doing things that people typically, or coding in the way that people typically do.
Mm-hmm.
And then next go, they're like, okay, screw it, we're just gonna go ECS and then like multi-thread it to have each system run multiple threads and yada yada.
Was that an update to UE4, or is that coming in UE5?
No. That's that particular game company. What they did is they shivved their own ECS library into it. That's generally what you're supposed to do. You can't really rely on engines to do stuff like that for you.
Right. The engine does the core basic what you need. Anything beyond that, you got to do your own code for. More or less. Let's see. We are down to 10 minutes. Any other topics anybody wants to talk about?
Do you think Alpha 20 is harder than previous versions? At least like 18, 19, 17, 18, 19?
I didn't get to try it too much, but going into cities, I got my butt spanked really hard. Yeah. That felt nostalgic.
You get so many in the cities.
The really hard ones, too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. All the
does that make up for, like you guys were talking earlier, that like Alpha 7, 8, 9, 10 or whatever was really hard?
In my book, no, but it's a good direction.
TFP needs to find like a little bit of a happy medium to keep the older players happy with what they're doing, and then being able to attract newer players without making them cry like little babies.
It's kind of nice. It literally, it's a similar idea to what Darkness Falls had, and I don't know about True Survivor, but it might have, where like you would have one isolated area with all the harder stuff that you have to like build up the right resources and equipment to work up towards dealing with eventually, which is essentially like the little area that spawns demons. But everywhere outside of it, it's like lesser difficulty Zeds. To even bother with that, I think you had to farm uranium and all sorts of stuff. But like, it's that mod is more long-winded, but this still feels like a similar concept, and I like that. And it's similar in spirit to the older alphas, where like big cities would have cops spawned in them, and this was back when cops could like one or two shot you really, really easily, and there would be a bunch of them, and it would actually take a fair bit to kill them, which meant gun combat. It was the only way to really deal with them, but that was risky too, because the moment you fired, you would instantly draw all zombies' attention within an area. And it made it terrifying. You get spit on once, you're likely to die. It feels similar to that. Not as bad, but similar, and I kind of miss that.
One thing I did like about the Alpha 20 update that I would say adds challenge to it is the biome multiplier. They kind of took a page out of the Valheim book where, the different biomes have a different game stage multiplier. So, you start off in your plains or your forest, and it's that's your starting point, but then you go to the snow biome. I think it's like a 1.5 times game stage multiplier, so it makes it difficult. I think the desert is like a 2,
It's
I'm guessing to encourage players to move from one spot to the other.
Well, it makes it harder. So basically, depending on your game stage, like whether you get regular zombies, whether you get the green zombies, the other special zombies.
You get a loot bonus as well.
Yeah, it ups the loot that's in there, the tier of the loot, and it gives you the more challenging zombies. So if you're like a level 5 player, your ass should not be in the snow biome.
It goes Pine Forest, loot stage modifier 0, to the desert, which is loot stage modifier 0.5, which is what, 50%?
Yeah.
And then it's the snow biome, that's 100%, and then it's the wasteland, which is 150%.
Interesting, honestly. I think that's potentially slightly balanced, but I need to actually play around with it to be sure. But I like the spirit of it, honestly. It feels a little bit nostalgic.
They could use some sort of UI element, because there's, as far as I can tell, there's no indication to the player that they get better loot in the wasteland.
Yeah.
Well, that just comes with experience of playing.
Has anybody looked at
the patch notes?
But the I menu also, you look in there and it tells you what your game stage. Has anybody looked to see if that changes depending on which biome you're in?
I didn't get. No.
It does.
So it'll change when you're in the different biomes.
What do you mean by the I menu?
Like when you press the menu that you see where who all's on the server and you're pinged and get the.
Oh no! It shows when you're in the B menu.
Okay.
At the bottom, it says
body
stage.
That would make sense.
Sure.
I imagine what
so that's there.
they show in the I menu is like more general.
Can't remember if it's actually in there now.
If it did show up there, I'd be a little bit worried, because if you see players moving around and then their game stage jumping up and down by like X amount, you could easily figure out which biome they're in, which would be very, very nasty for rating.
True.
So if they actually manage to avoid putting it there, but then adding like the total sum in just the character menu, that'd be really awesome.
They might have your base game stage in that area, because it'll tell you what level and all that. So, but yeah, if you were in an area where there was a buff. I haven't really looked at that much other stuff that I work on.
Just curious. If there happens to be a mod put out where everyone essentially, where everyone essentially has to spend more time looting, especially for things like brass or ammo, so like loot's dramatically reduced in a lot of regards, and maybe there's some tweaks going on such that either questing is taking out or altered in such a way where you can't just like depend on hitting main stash and all that. I'm wondering if people would be willing to try it out, or if they would rather just make their own.
Is it all server side? Is just XML tweaks?
Yeah, just server side.
So I think more people would go for that, because players don't like to download anything.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So anything that makes the game more challenging, I'm all for. Like I said, I've been playing since 14.7, and the game has gotten consistently easier, and it makes me mad.
Helen's been trying to do this for a while, and I'm thinking about asking him to just put it up in a GitHub repo somewhere where everybody else can try it.
Do you guys have a Discord that the mod will be discussed and supported?
Specifically, not yet. It's not even really something he thought of doing yet. It's just something I'm wanting to encourage him to think about, because I think there might actually be some demand for that.
I would definitely put it out and see what the public does. That definitely put it up on GitHub to make it down, to make it downloadable, so admins can put it on the server. If you guys do you guys rent or self-host?
He rents, and he essentially just kind of, how do I put it? He doesn't go the most optimized route. He'd rather stick with the Windows operating system and not have to deal with console and stuff like that. But eventually, I'll I'll wean him over.
Now,
a couple quick questions. Number one, for the loot, like, why wouldn't you just change how much loot you get?
Yeah,
or, like,
lower the
drop
percentage.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be like a simple fix?
Oh yeah, that's kind of a simplish fix, and then
right. So then,
you get.
For like the POIs, having the loot rooms, not all the loot there. I mean, you'd have to either, because like there's parts, and then you could switch out the parts so that it had different stuff in there. But also the combo pack has definitely addressed some of those issues. So when 48 comes out,
Prisma chimed in the BDE live channel. It says a mod that would prevent going main loot at once would be instantly mod NR1.
NR1?
I don't know. Prisma, what's NR1?
Number 1?
Number 1? Maybe.
Ah.
He's typing. Number 1. Yep.
Yep. Huh.
So how would you do that without modifying each of the POIs though?
You can modify the loot groups. See what the main POIs are doing, and just either nullify that loot group and create your own in place.
The blocks are still there, so you're just basically lowering the amount of loot that's in them, right?
Or changing what's in there.
What was in them?
Like, even back when you would get a ton of, like, guns from safes, like, say, an A6, the guns, if I remember correctly, often, once you got all the parts and got all the molds and everything, you would just scrap the rest into iron, because iron was still difficult to get. I kind of miss that, but I don't know about the rest of everybody else. Back when you didn't need parts to make them, you just, you needed a lot of freaking iron. Nah, maybe that's just a me thing.
I kind of
like right now, a lot of things are constrained by the Crucible, which is
oh yeah,
the fucking Crucible.
That almost reminds me of the Forge book way back when that was rare to get.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. The Crucible now is an item you can get as a reward in one level of the quests. I don't know if it's a tier 2 or tier 3, but you can get a Crucible as a reward.
Oh, for the
trader quest.
The trader series, yeah.
Maybe just make it a little bit easier to make those too, honestly.
The Crucibles?
Maybe.
I don't know. I fought a lot of that one during the testing phase. A lot. Ask any of the other testers.
Oh boy, I can imagine.
Anytime Crucibles are discussed now, I get tagged. That's how much I bitched about it.
Ow. I mean, at least we don't have calipers and beakers being a pain in the butt to find.
I still have never naturally looted a Crucible or Crucible schematic. Not in A20. Not at all. Not once.
It's probably
not
such
counting traders.
A low percentage drop, or it's not even in the loot tables. It might not be in the loot tables.
It is.
Oh, trust me. I went through all the loot tables, figuring out where it's going to be, what kind of loot piles it's going to be in. I was, and because I bitched so much, it did get added to different ones. But, because every time we would kick off a new map on the test server, I'm like, okay, still haven't gotten a Crucible. I'm like, oh, you just got to do, I'm like, no, I'm not talking about in the traders. I just want to make sure that they're dropping in the real world.
Oh my god, they're so obsessed with traders.
Yes.
It doesn't work all the time because you get people fighting over them and buying all the stuff out. Except the secret stash, but then you need to put so many things in the secret stash anyway.
Right.
Ugh.
Or if I don't want to be looking in, if you're playing a game, but if it's in the loot table, you need to confirm that it's actually dropping in game. So that was always the thing I was focusing on. I'm like, okay, and well, you can wrench down street lights and all that. I'm like, have you ever been on a server that's got some people in there? There would be no street lights within the first 5 days. None.
Yeah.
And those don't respawn. So.
All right. So what I'm hearing is we need a mod that respawns street lights that have been taken down.
Yes.
Sam?
That actually would be a good thing.
I mean, you did it with trees. How about a street light
That's
mod?
a one block thing. The street lights would be such a funny thing because you'd have to have this growing stage on a growing stage on a growing stage. And you'd watch this weird street light just start growing from the ground up.
That would be funny.
I have cars that respawn. I have gore blocks that respawn.
Gore blocks? Oh my god, that's nostalgic.
So, well, no, I mean not those kind. But anytime you whack out one of the gore blocks, the bones, it comes back every couple of days.
Oh, nice.
Or I assume that assume that includes the body bags, like the yellow body bags, in the mortuary and stuff. No.
Nope. Well, because on the POIs, I don't really care because those things will respawn if you kick off a
quest.
A quest, exactly. But I'm talking about the ones that are typically found on the roads and whatnot.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I have all those.
That is nice.
Because the grow time is it's so difficult to balance because you can't balance it for how long it will take, assuming this the player's in game that whole time, because the player could leave, but time continues on when there's someone else on the server. So a player goes away for dinner and then they come back and everything's magically respawned.
It's
So every
tricky.
time they log in, they've got new stuff to harvest.
Well, I'm going to stop it right here. We're running a few minutes over. Not too much of a big deal, but everybody can feel free to stay around and chat and talk about whatever they want. But as far as the show, I think we're going to end it here. So for everybody who missed the live production, you guys should pop in. I know this was a last minute thing on a Sunday and not a Saturday like we normally do, but you know, I like seeing people in the chat and discussing and, you know, being interactive. It makes me warm and fuzzy inside, just like hot cocoa or, you know, some whiskey. So this is the first show of the 2022 season. So hope to see more people in the future, and I'm going to say goodbye.
Cheers.
Bye.
See ya.
Hey.